hunter. Montana, well, it's just like my second home when it comes to deer season. I truly enjoy these big skies, the open prairies, the cottonwood river bottoms, and the breaky country where the mule deer live. You won't find a more productive place to put on any deer hunt anywhere in North America, and that's a guarantee. Well, once again, Cole, we find ourselves on Thanksgiving Day in Montana.
Yep.
Now, why Thanksgiving? The end of the rut, when some of those big bucks are looking out for that last hot doe.
You know, I really love to hunt, and this, for me, was a great opportunity to come and spend some time with my dad. I mean, he's been gone all fall on the road. To have a great time hunting in some territory that we've been around. We kind of know our way around, and it's just a great time to spend some time with my dad.
He loves to hunt, so when I asked him if he wanted to go along, he was packing his bags to be in Montana.
We're in far southeastern Montana, between the Powder River and the Tongue River. We hunt a very large area.
Now the bad thing is, Cole didn't have a tag, but he's an accomplished hunter now. He hunts solo all the time, so I loved having him as a backup to help me field judge animals, do some ranging if things got excited, and he was going to do all the rattling. That way I could keep my hands on my Ruger ready to shoot. There's no Macy's Day Parade, but maybe we'll get a little gutting in. How about that?
Let's get it done.
All right. Our biggest challenge on this hunt was hunting the post-rut factor. Now, I'm calling it post-rut. The rut was actually rolling yet, but it was on that wind-down period where the bucks one day could be very interested in chasing like they had never been in love with the doe before, and the next day, eating up a storm like they were at a smorgasbord at a Golden Corral cafe. We started marching down towards the river. We weren't seeing a lot of deer. Then, all of a sudden, right in front of us was the action I had hoped for. We had made it to the edge of the river, and in the timber, there was activity. And I could just tell, you know, I'm a seasoned professional here, that was rutting activity. And this buck, he had that character, that Elmer Fudd type character you never forget. And in this case, it was a big kicking point sticking out of his right antler, 4 or 5 inches long. Now I couldn't tell if it was a kicker on his G2 or just a separate point, but I knew one thing. We were calling this boy Curly, and we were gonna keep an eye on him the rest of the hunt. We let Curly go that night because it was the first night. I wanted to do a little shopping, that Thanksgiving style shopping, Black Friday style shopping that was coming up, people were gonna get crazy for. So the next morning we moved on. We started in the same place we saw Curly, but I knew from what I had seen the night before and from what Bill pointed out, most of the activity was taking place about a half-mile further down the river, and that was our destination. We did have one little dilemma before we got into all that deer activity, and that was getting there out of sight. The river opened up right there. All we had were about 2 to 3, 4 foot willow shoots to hide us, and the occasional cottonwood. I started scratching my head, putting all the math together, and I knew all those whitetail eyes, they were gonna see me before I could get there. So what did Cole and I do? Well, we did a little bit of what my daughter Caitlin does. We did a little ice skating. We dropped down on the frozen Powder River, tested the weight of the ice, the thickness, and we headed up the river out of sight because that big bank, 5, 6, 7 feet tall, hit us perfectly. We scooted right into the middle of the deer herd, popped up, and started our hunt. Right in their bedroom, unannounced and invisible.
North American Hunter is brought to you by Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Ruger, rugged, reliable firearms. M&P, advanced by design. Can-Am Off-Road Vehicles. Can-Am, the ride says it all. And by Matthews, catch us if you can.
This season, I teamed up with outfitter Bill Perkins, Perkins Outfitters, based out of Miles City, Montana. But one of our mutual friends introduced us, and before long, we had some dates set for a Thanksgiving hunt. Now, why Thanksgiving? Well, Bill was pretty booked up and he was trying to squeeze me in, and he did his finest to fit me in during the holiday time period. Now, I'm used to being gone from home during Thanksgiving. Year after year after year, I have missed that big Thanksgiving turkey to be in pursuit of big whitetails. This year was no different. And like most years, where did I end up? Well, once again, Cole, we find ourselves on Thanksgiving Day in Montana. I handed him over the rattling horns and we set up for some calling action. Now, he had been listening to me. He kept the antlers down low just in case something popped up so they wouldn't catch the activity. It didn't take long before we had some action right in front of us. A buck started charging through the timber to our right, bounding, coming hard. Cole saw him first, said, "Dad, there's a buck right there." I think he said Dad. Sometimes he calls me other names, but it was Dad. And that buck was charging right at us. Hard driving, excited. Cole was getting a little excited. I was getting a little excited. And then I took a look at him. I could tell it wasn't a big bruiser. Heck, it didn't have to be. This was the type of fun we were looking for. Having a little fun at Thanksgiving and trying to find a nice whitetail buck. That's the way it's supposed to work. Is this the first buck you've ever rattled in?
I think so.
Well, right after that, a second buck appeared. And this one too was keyed up, ready to go. Both these bucks came into about the same range, 100 yards or less, and circling, just trying to find out what was going on. Now, to keep them interested, I gave them a little grunt here or there, and while all this was playing out, we made a wide loop and were heading out when who stepped out in front of us? Yeah, Curly, the buck from the night before. He had come from nearly a mile away. We'd seen him on the other side of the river bend, and now he was right in front of us. This dude was a traveler, and he was keyed up as well, looking for the action, looking for the fight, and trying to find out if he was about to get lucky in love, or maybe go down in Rocky style with a little bit of a boxing bout. We're rattling in a few bucks, we just can't find the right one. I kind of like this idea of me having the license and you not.
Now, my dad is pretty lucky to have me along, because without me, he might have had a hard time trying to see those deer. Not to mention the fact that I rattled in the deer for him and carried around his shooting stick so that he could hit what he was shooting at.
So you hand me those shooting sticks if I need them right away, okay? For the afternoon hunt, Bill had a surprise. He had this old ranch house, an old homestead that he liked to put hunters in. And the reason being, well, the deer like to come to that homestead and funnel all the way around it to get to the alfalfa fields beyond. I like hunting in old houses. I don't like fixing them up, so for me, this is the perfect place for an evening's hunt. And structures like houses obviously give you some concealment like a ground blind. It's just an antique ground blind. What I really like about hiding out in a ground blind type structure like this is the fact that you get scent containment as well. Now sure, scent's going to come through the window and maybe blow out, but it's going to be very limited. And if you feel some breezes coming in, or you know deer are going to be on that side of the building, just stay out of the window until the deer pass. That way your scent will just hold in the building. I like hunting from old houses. I don't like fixing them up, so in this case, I'm in the perfect place. We sat down in our chairs in our respective windows. Everybody had a view, including a porcupine that come out of the floorboards. We'd been hearing some grunting, and I just thought it was Cole with some gastrointestinal things from lunch. But no, he said it wasn't him. And before long, old Porky popped his head out, and to his surprise, he saw a couple of redneck boys from Wyoming, and he was none too happy about the whole scenario. Within seconds, he dove back down under the floorboards, never to be seen again. But oh wow, did we hear him. After our close encounters of the porcupine kind, we got down to business looking at deer. And it didn't take long for the woods to begin spitting out deer like a baseball player spits out chewing tobacco in the 9th inning. Deer were just streaming out of the woods, and they were focused on going to the fields. I'm surprised there's as much rutting activity as there is today for as warm it is and for as late as it is in the season. Our options were filling fast. We had bucks all around us. On every little field, on every little opening, there was a buck chasing a doe. And there was a deer standing right by a lone cottonwood. All I could see was its back. So I lifted my binos up, took a better look, and when that buck lifted his head, I knew we'd found our shooter. It was a nice, solid 5x5 Montana mature whitetail. As I started doing the math, Cole whispered to me, another buck was coming off to the right, chasing a doe right up close to the house on the field we were watching. Just then, as that buck was coming up beside us, our buck, the 5x5, took notice. He lifted his head up, stopped eating, and started marching. Before long, he was right at the fence, standing there staring at that buck. He was ticked off like any landowner would be to an obvious trespasser.
123.
Cole said the yardage at that point was less than 150 yards. The only problem was I had to shoot through some of the barbed wire fence. Well, that's not a big issue, but if that bullet hit squarely on the wire, I just didn't want to wound this buck. And then everything fell into place. It was like a Cinderella story, if I can use that phrase. The two were prepping for a boxing bout that I hoped would take place before I could get the shot off. So as this buck was parallel to me, I barked at him like a coyote. He didn't even respond to the Kayser coyote bark. They always do. So I had to give him a second one, a little harsher, a little more intense, and then he stopped. But guess what? He didn't just stop broadside. He turned and looked right at me, and I had a straight-on shot. If I gave him just one more second, it was more than likely he was going to give me the shot. Well, the second took maybe 5 to 10 seconds, and that buck twisted, gave me a good 1/4-2 shot. I put the crosshairs right in there so I could break the shoulder, hopefully hit the heart or all the vitals, and I depressed the trigger. Cole gave me a whoop from the other window. He said it was a good hit. I jacked another shell in just in case and didn't need it. That buck piled up in the fence line, and our episode of This Old House was just about to become This Old Alfalfa Field. Oh, what a beautiful 5x5 Montana river bottom whitetail. But you gotta love Montana. Big sky country, here we are, in a big sky whitetail.
North American Hunter is brought to you by Supercharged Scent Killer by Wildlife Research Center. 99% peak antifreeze. Radiator protection that's guaranteed. Peak. Run true. Burris Optics, home of the Eliminator 3 laser scope. Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker. And by the 4-in-1 Woodsman from Zippo Outdoor.